Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. We are giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We come your way on Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. and Monday mornings at 1 a.m., streaming live at richarddugan.com for those radio broadcasts. And then we take those long radio broadcasts. Sometimes they are long, and we post them both on the radio show's page at richarddugan.com as well as SoundCloud and iTunes. So we encourage you to go to those locations and listen to the entire interview. You never know. You never know what you will have missed if you don't listen to the whole thing. And it's not a trick. This is not bait and switch. This is bait and go. Go to the website. Go to the podcast pages, as I've mentioned already, and I'll mention them again later on in the broadcast. Listen to the interviews. Go to our guest's website. We'll be giving you that website shortly so that you can continue researching and investigating, continue your evolutionary transformation. And we encourage you, of course, to tune in every week or just go to the podcasts. We have... Oh, my goodness. Over 11 years worth of interviews. Now, as of the end of the 10th year, which was last year, September, we had 10 years and we had one program a week. And in the last year, from the beginning of our 11th year until now, we have over 120 plus interviews just for 2018. So... that's over 2 years worth of interviews that we've done in less time, because I wanted to get more folks on the radio broadcast as well as the podcast to share their dreams, their aspirations, the work that they're doing, the transformation that they're going through. Today is absolutely no different. We are really very excited, of course, to have a very special guest on our program today, all the way from Canada. Doesn't need a passport and doesn't have to go through security or TSA or anything, just through Skype. Brenda Rachel, thank you so much for joining us on the program, all the way from the Great White North, as it were.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yes, I'm very grateful to be invited to be on your show, and it's just a real pleasure to share my journey with your listeners, and hopefully will inspire them as I have been inspired and blessed through my disabilities and my various learning curves through life. I'm in Nanaimo on beautiful Vancouver Island in BC, and it's a glorious day here, and I'm just really happy and excited to share our moments with each other. It's like you said, it's the little tidbits, the little gleanings that if somebody doesn't have the time to listen to the whole interview in one go, to turn it back on, because one never knows when that one aha light bulb moment is going to go on from something that's been said.
Absolutely right. You couldn't have said it better. And so to that end, you have a lot of different, shall we say, connections on a spiritual level, but probably one of the most important is your connection with the angels. Tell us about that.
That is absolutely correct. Oh, I love talking about angels. They're my absolute best friend in the universe. I have gone through many disabilities and near-death situations in my life since I was 4 years old. But the two that I basically talk about in my current interviews are about my disability in 2004 to 2006, when I woke up one morning and could not put my feet on the floor. I could not stand on my feet. It ended up that I was off, not able to walk for 4 months, and was in rehab and all that kind of stuff, going for ultrasounds and all kinds of treatments for my feet. I had bilateral plantar fasciitis, which in both feet. So in multiple areas of the bottom of the foot, from the heel to the toes, my feet were inflamed. And so day after day, week after week, I would lay on the couch in the living room with my dog by my side, and I would ask the angels, why was I going through this experience, and what did they want me to learn from the experience? And what messages did they want me to bring to others? Because I had been studying earlier in my life to be a New Thought Science of Mind / religious science teacher. So I understood about science and religion meshing, and I came to believe for myself that our thoughts create our realities. So by this juncture, that was the late 80s, early 90s. So by 2004, I was well versed with that. This was my creation. I was fairly, and I own that and accepted that. I didn't deny that on any level. I knew it had happened. I was pretty certain it had happened because I was going through some issues at work, and I was contemplating a move back east. Lots of things were happening in my life, but for me to stop, because I used to be a very, very busy person, working full time and then lots of activities on the side. In order for me to actually come to a halt, I had to be sick or have some sort of illness to actually lay me flat out on my back, which is what this did. So all of a sudden one morning, I was laying on the couch, and this one song started coming to me in my mind very clearly. The words were just beautiful. I used to attend Unity churches and Science of Mind churches, Celebration of Life centers, etc., with beautiful, beautiful music, very positive. Nothing religious, just very spiritual and inspirational. And so, not to my surprise, the angels started delivering me this wonderful song called In This Moment. It took me 5 months to get the song compiled in my head, and they also gave me the melody simultaneously. So I would sing it and change it around in words, chorus, verse, whatever. And then during this time, I was able to return to work. I had a very, very long commute, an hour and a half each way on a bus. So I would be laying in my seat just laying with my head back, my eyes closed, and singing the song in my head. So finally, I didn't know what I was going to do with this song. And then the Unity church I was attending, my girlfriend said, well, I'll introduce you to our choir director, and because he has a recording studio, and he's also a professional singer, and I'll hook you up with him. And his name was John Hemingway. So John and I worked very, very closely on 6 of the 22 songs over a period of 2 years that the angels, 2004 to 2006, that the angels delivered to me. They channeled to me. So I was able to financially record and produce 6 of the songs, which turned into an EP, which I called In This Moment, because of the title song, In This Moment. And years later, looking back at all the songs and of the words of all the songs that I wrote, I am just sort of aghast at times at the synchronicity of what the message was that they were trying to deliver, which has now evolved further into what I do now, which I'll get to in a minute. But all of them to do with love, peace, joy, hope, encouragement, support, just spiritually, a spiritual connection to the oneness of the universe. I call God, I call it divine, I call it universe. I feel much more comfortable with myself. I just call the presence that I feel, the oneness that we all come from, as God. But that's not a definitive. That's just my own personal preference. Mm-hmm. So I fast forward, produced that, and did nothing with it. I made about 60 CDs, gave them away for nothing, and which was fine. I have all my work, I've always just given it away for nothing, because my ultimate goal was for people to have the words the angels delivered to me, because they didn't charge me for the words. So I wasn't going to charge other people for the words, because, they were just too beautiful to not gift to other people. And now I'm turning it a little different, have a little different perspective on that, and that I wanted to have a business from the work that I do, which that will evolve as and when it's meant to, in the way it's meant to.
Well, I'm going to ask you to hold right there, because what I'm going to do right now is we're going to actually play that song in this moment.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that would tie that in perfectly.
And then have you continue on from there as we talk here with Brenda. We're talking about the work she's doing, especially with angels. And before we go too much further, and we'll play the song here in just a moment, let our listeners know that the website that you folks can go to get more information is Brenda Rachel 14. Beg your pardon, Brenda Rachel for Angels.com. We will be linked to that website as well. But this is the song.
And also, I'll just interject just to let you know, the 4 is the letter 4.
The letter 4, correct. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is the song that we're going to listen to, called In This Moment, here on Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. Stay tuned.
In this moment, I know you and I are one. In this moment, I know my life has just begun. In this moment, I am listening to your voice. In this moment, I rejoice. To listen to your word, believe what I have heard each and every day. To learn to freely live, so now I can forgive those who have hurt me along my way. In this moment, I know you and I are one. In this moment, I know my life has just begun. In this moment, I am listening to your voice. In this moment, I rejoice. Now I can turn the page, let go of all my rage, feel the peace inside. Know that I can be in perfect harmony, sharing my love with everyone. In this moment, I know you and I are one. In this moment, I know my life has just begun. In this moment, I am listening to your voice. In this moment, I rejoice. In this moment, I know you and I are one. In this moment, I know my life has just begun. In this moment, I am listening to your voice. In this moment, I rejoice. In this moment, I am listening to your voice. In this moment, I rejoice. In this moment,
And that is In This Moment, and that is, of course, written by our special guest here on the program, Brenda, who is joining us all the way from an island off of British Columbia. Thank you so much again, of course, for joining us here on the program and sharing your music. The gentleman who assisted you once again in putting all of this together, as well as even doing some of the vocals on some of the other songs we're going to hear.
Right. His name is John Hemingway, and this song, In This Moment, was actually sung by my girlfriend Una Sinclair, who introduced me to John. We all went to the same Unity Church in White Rock together. So that's how he and I hooked up. So I actually would go and physically lay on his couch in his recording studio, and my dog would be down on the floor beside me, and I would sing him the melody, and he would have his keyboard that had every single instrument available, and all kinds of instruments on there, and he would just listen by ear to my very simplistic note formations, and we built each bar of the song together, but the angels told me which instruments to use and which type of genre. So therefore the 6 songs that we put together are all of a different genre. This is what I call my symphonic one, and then the others are of a different nature, because I also wanted the album to be multicultural, so that it wasn't all just speaking to one sect of people. It was very important for me back then to make sure that it was very diverse, but yet unified everybody, and it's all congealed itself into coming into Humanity with Heart, which is what my website is called now, for my vision of global peace and unconditional love throughout the world. And so it's just interesting to see how my journey has unfolded to bringing me to where it is. And from laying on the couch in absolute agony and not understanding why I was going through the excruciating pain that I was, and yet being gifted with such beautiful words, because in this moment for me that's all I had. All I had was that moment. Sometimes, like, I didn't want to go on. It was so painful. And I had to crawl around my downstairs. I had to move physically downstairs from my townhouse because I had to crawl upstairs if I wanted to go up to the second floor. So that stopped very quickly. But it was just such a gift to have this, just be able to sing these notes and words around and around and around in my head to keep me distract me from the agony that I was going through.
I'm curious, because we've discussed this subject on many programs, the concept, if you will, the philosophy, if you will, of the power of words.
Yes.
And why you choose to describe, and if you want to list them, that's fine too, so that we can better understand. But why you use the word disability to describe those conditions that you have. And the reason I bring it up is because early on in my life, and I'm talking about in my teens, and I was born legally blind, yet I could see well enough to move about. And I got to the point where I said, you know what? This is a perceived limitation. And if I perceive it as a limitation, then it is. And if I don't, then it's not. And I would actually surprise people by the work that I was doing. They had no clue that I was legally blind. I was sitting there queuing up these black vinyl records with a tiny little needle in 5 seconds from the record cabinet to the turntable. And they didn't know unless I pulled out my magnifying glass, which at that time I was a little embarrassed about pulling out sometimes. But I'm just curious, from your perspective, why the word disabilities?
Well, I use the word disabilities because I pull it apart. And I use dis as dysfunctional use of my abilities. And so for me, I was in a very limited capacity to do what I would normally have done in life. I don't hold an attachment to those words as far as anybody that has any kind of impairment, but for me, I just use it because it's a word that people know, they understand, and rather than getting into too esoteric of kind of what's going on, etc. And the whole I create my own reality and all this kind of stuff, which like I said, I totally understood I needed to go through this disabling period to be off work, to get revenue, to have some kind of support to support myself while I was off, and to become closer aligned with my spiritual purpose. And each disability that I had, or dysfunction of ability, let's put it that way, that I had, has brought me closer to my spiritual purpose. And this last one, I'm currently on disability right now, and I have now found my passion. So I didn't have a passion before. I had definitely had a purpose, and I had a mission, and I really wanted to have people understand their oneness with this universal energy, whatever, however people interpret it, you know, God, that when we align ourselves with the right way of thinking for us,
Right.
it can bring us peace and joy and happiness and love. I'm not talking about anybody else, just this is my journey and what it did for me.
This is about
So I
Brenda.
don't-
Yeah.
I don't know if that answered your question, Richard, about the word disability, because I think there's so much semantics as to it's a labeling.
Good point.
And I choose not to label it from a limiting standpoint in that it's a forever condition.
Yeah.
I do absolutely use it and honor people who are disabled and are not able to function, have a dysfunction in their ability. And because we're all here, we all came here with pure potential of love and joy and happiness and peace. And wherever we human beings take ourselves on that journey, whether it's to an empowerment state or a disempowerment state, I believe that can also be a disability as far as a dysfunction of ability, of how we should be living, thinking and living and being.
Well, I know that when I was growing up, and primarily in my teens and 20s, you know, they always used to use the phrase "so-and-so challenged." You know,
Yes.
I
Mentally challenged, physically challenged, right.
and I used to say, no, I am not visually challenged. I'm legally blind. Okay.
Yeah.
And my wife is totally blind. She's not visually challenged, you know.
Yeah.
And what's wrong with using those words? And again, I'm not going to get on a high horse and play that game of being opposed to what they refer to as political correctness. But at the same time, as I said, I got to a point in my own personal experience of realizing that this visual impairment, this legal blindness, was only that as long as I allowed it to be. And
Exactly.
that's when I came up with the perceived limitation phrase. And so I understand perfectly where you're coming from, and it makes perfect sense that you had to it sounds to me like you had to sort of make peace with it in your own mind and in your own self, and in order to be able to move forward. And speaking of moving forward, talk to us about what came, not necessarily which song per se, but let's continue that wonderful musical process that you were in following the song In This Moment with these friends of yours who. And I've listened to these songs, and first of all, the production values are incredible. They're wonderful. You know, obviously this gentleman had an amazing studio, and I've heard when I was going through when I was working for the Christian radio station, there would be people that would want to produce music, and they would bring me a cassette tape of the music that they had produced. It was done with a cassette player, a little portable thing with a condenser mic, and it was set on a table, and they would stand around it and they would sing into it. And it was a wonderful effort, but it really didn't sound very good, you know?
Yeah.
And I didn't want.
John had a full.
Yeah.
He had it was a very small room.
And-
one chair, but he had a recording booth.
Yeah.
both he and went in, and at one point he said, "Why don't you try singing? Because I love to sing." And I said, "Oh, are you kidding?" And so for a laugh, I went in there and put on the headphones and the muffle thing at the mic and tried to sing my heart out. And that was nixed pretty quickly. So I knew I wasn't going to be the next Aretha Franklin.
So what came next? What was?
So what in the journey, in the my journey, not in the order of the songs, but the one that we can play next, because this is what happened next, is my niece committed suicide, who was 22. And so she committed suicide in 2005, in the middle of all what I was going through with my feet. But this was the last song that I actually ended up producing, which was at the end of 2006. But this is, oh my gosh, I don't have my songs in front of me.
And it's of the six?
Yeah, it's of the six,
Well,
yeah.
There's God, I Am Connected.
No.
And the angels sing, hear the angels sing, I believe in miracles. It's time to be one, and the river of love.
Okay, Hear the Angels Sing. It's called Hear the Angels Sing.
All right. Well, let's take a listen to that, folks. As we go to commercial break, we're going to do just that. We're going to take this to commercial break, and we'll come back after the break and continue our conversation with Brenda. We're talking about her work and the work that she's doing with the angels as well. We'll get more into that. Humanity with Heart is the website. I believe that you could probably Google that in, as well as Brenda Rachel 4, the number 4, angels.com. This is Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, and this is Hear the Angels Sing.
Sometimes I feel I've been deserted. Sometimes I feel so all alone. Sometimes I think there's no one listening. Sometimes I think God is not at home. But then I hear the angels sing of peace and joy and love they bring. They tell me God hears everything. If only I believe. Sometimes I think there's no solution. Sometimes I think that no one cares. Sometimes I'm in such confusion. Sometimes I think God doesn't hear my prayers. But then I hear the angels sing of peace and joy and love they bring. They tell me God hears everything. If only I believe. Sometimes I think I have no purpose. Sometimes I feel I can't go on. Sometimes I think that there's no future. Sometimes I think God doesn't hear my song. But then I hear the angels sing of peace and joy and love they bring. They tell me God hears everything. If only I believe. Sometimes I feel I've been abandoned. Sometimes I think I can't take it anymore. Sometimes I wish
welcome back to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan, your host. I'm joined by Brenda all the way up in Canada, and we thank you so much for staying with us, Brenda, and sharing with us, of course, this music. We're going to hear more of that here throughout the program as well. And, of course, we're talking about the work that you do with angels, as well as your website, folks, which is Humanity with Heart, which you can also get to through Brenda Rachel, the number 4, angels.com. And as I said, we will be linked to that website as well. Let's talk a little bit about the angels. How did your relationship begin with the angels? And more on a conscious level, I guess I should say.
Yeah, on a conscious level, it was probably this feed experience. My sister sent me one of Doreen Virtue's books while I was off with my feet, called Healing with the Angels. And Doreen Virtue is well renowned in the angelic field as an angel therapy practitioner. I took her course in 2006, April 2006, and became an angel therapy practitioner myself, as did my sister. And that was just right 9 months after she lost her daughter, so we did that together. And it really was an awakening for me, knowing that these beautiful entities have always been with me, that they are always with me, they will always be with me, and that all I have to do is ask. If there's anything I need, direction, guidance, confirmation, all I have to do is ask them, and I get answers. I've had so many angelic interactions that, for me, they are just a reality in my life. I don't even doubt that they exist. They're just there. So what happened in 2014, moving up to 2014, I ended up with another dysfunction of ability period, where my back started to break down, and the discs in my back, etc., started to go on me, and I had serious pain and ended up in back rehab for 5 months and all that, and was in a back brace for 3. So I, at that time, was very involved with the angels, and I didn't even question, like, why is this happening? I just point blankly said to them, like, what do you want me to learn from this? And what message do you want me to get out there? What is it about all this? What is it about this time around that you really want me to hear? And I'm here and I'm listening. And so they started, I was at a very low period with my spinal decompression treatments, because my back wasn't getting very much better. And I was laying on the bed on October 29th, 2014, and my mom came to me, who was a Spanish concert pianist. And she just said to me in my ear, Brenny, you need to get your music on iTunes. And that's all she said. And I went home from my spinal decompression treatment, and I started the process myself of digitally getting my music produced on iTunes. I knew nothing about this at all. And so got it on iTunes and Amazon. But for all of you wonderful folks out there, it's free on my website. So you enjoy.
There you go.
Gift to you, yeah. And don't have to pay for it at all. And so that took me a month to do. And so that was out by December 2nd of 2014. And then I said to the angels, okay, are you finished with me, or do you have something else you want me to do? And so they started channeling quotes to me. And I just went, oh, okay, this is interesting. And I was not on social media. So I got myself on Twitter, was my first platform. And then I think LinkedIn, and then Facebook, and then Google+. So I started very uncomfortably putting out one quote like every week or so. And it was just a quote, just by itself, no name, no nothing, just a quote. And because my confidence in myself, because I was into ego, was that, oh, I don't know if what I'm saying is like, if people will understand it, or they'll want to read it, or it has any value. All these sort of very earthly, humanistic kind of questions, rather than just saying the angels gave this to me, I'm putting it out there and let it do what it needs to do, which is where I'm at now.
Right.
I just do their work, put it out there. If people want to read it, great. If they don't, great too. And just whatever people's journeys are, I really honor where we all are in life on this planet, because it's, for a lot of us, we've had very difficult times here, and to get to a real place of just trusting and having faith and believing that everything is unfolding just as it is supposed to in every moment, it takes some of us a lot of lessons to get there. And so anyway, I just did that and put that out, and then I said to them, I think I was at about 150 or something, and I said to them, well, what do you want me to do with these quotes? Like, you keep giving me these beautiful, beautiful messages, and they said, we want you to put them into a book. And I went, you want me to publish a book? Well, I don't know how to publish a book. I don't even have any money to publish a book. And like, how am I supposed to do this? So all these, again, very egocentric questions, and not believing or having faith or trusting that they would guide me and direct me and have it unfold just like it was meant to. But anyway, so I said, okay. So I was back to work by this point, full time. I worked in a law firm, very, very, very busy law firm, very high stress, very high paced. And so still kept up with my quotes, and would come home and go on the computer and work on the computer, just inputting my quotes, just in a Word document, because at that point my website had not been built or even contemplated. So anyway, then in the May, I started the process of, I was back to work in the April, and in the May I started the process of publishing my book. And so that got published on September 24th, 2015. And in the June of that year, I started my website. So I built my website completely by myself with no help, other than through the platform Help Desk. And so I was like gaining confidence in my technical abilities, because I always had put myself down saying I wasn't very technically capable, but I am not saying that about myself anymore. What I do say is that anything we need to learn and we want to learn, we absolutely can learn. So, and again, I would always ask the angels, I'd say, okay, if something was happening, or I couldn't find something, or I'd lost a document, and I'd be very tired at various times, because my days would start at 4 a.m. and go till 8 p.m. the next day, with a 3-hour commute to and from work, 1.5 hours each way, a long work day in a law office, and then come home and do my spiritual work and look after my dog. So day in and day out, day in and day out. So, it was very, very, very hectic time. And I asked the angels, Richard, all the time to carry me, all the time. I'd just say, okay, whatever I have to do today, just hold me in your wings, take me through the day, let me float through the day, let me have a good day, and handle anything that might come my way. And always would start my day with my counseling and my prayer with them and God. And so the book evolved in this moment, Angel Sweet Reflections. That's also a free PDF on my website to all you wonderful listeners. And although it is also published, and it's on Amazon. And so that became my beautiful, beautiful angelic blessing, where I took on the role of being a messenger of hope for them. Because by this time, I knew that I'd had 3 serious disabilities. I don't talk about the first one because I'm writing a book about that, and that's coming out in 2019. And that was my conscious suicide attempt to leave the planet when I was very, very, very ill with chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia. and I decided to end my life. I just did not want to live anymore the way I was, no quality of life at all. And I knew that it was much, much better, grander on the other side, and I chose to go home. However, the angels intervened. That was in 1996. And that's when I had my first angelic, not my first, my second. The first was when I was 4. But the second angelic intervention, unbeknownst to me being at that time, it was the angels intervening. Because there's no other explanation for me to be on this planet today other than they intervened with that suicide attempt. So that is going to be, yes, a part of my autobiography, which I'm writing and in the midst of writing, and that will be hopefully published in 2019.
Yeah, if I ever write my autobiography anytime soon, I'll have to do a sequel when I'm in my 90s. So I'm just gonna wait until my 90s just to do it all. I have to say that one of the observations I have here is that you have gone through what some might consider to be how do I want to phrase this? And I can't find the second word to go with this, but I'm going to use the phrase just the same. We'll come up with something along the way. Yeah. The Job syndrome. It doesn't sound to me like even up to the point where you were ready to say, "Hey, I'm going home." That's all there's to it. Here are the keys to the car. I'm going home, and yet you didn't. And then you could have said to the angels, regardless of what their input was in 2014, you said, "Hey, I don't care what you have to say. I'm going home. I've had enough." But you didn't. You stayed. That's why I say the Job complex.
I'm just going to interject there. I did ask them daily. I said to them, if you are finished with me, then I want you to take me home. Mm-hmm. I pleaded with them, spoke with them gently. But it was an agreement. It wasn't like I'm doing this of my own volition. Mm-hmm. It was like a partnership with them that I said, I want to do everything I possibly can do for you while I'm alive on this planet for the rest of my days. But if you're done with me and you have nothing else, this was prior to Mom coming to me. Mm-hmm. On October 29th, 2014. I started having my serious back issues in the May, and then ended up going off work in the September, and was in my back brace until the January, but started my rehab in the November. Anyway, every day I cleaned out my whole home. I downsized, and I had a huge purge because I didn't think I was going to. I was turning 62 that year, or 61 and 20, 62 in 2015. Mm-hmm. And I, hang on, I'm losing track, 63, sorry. I was turning, And so every day I would just say to them, okay, I'm here, but I'm here until you take me home, and I'm ready to go.
Well, everything that you've described up to this point sounds to me like an appropriate spot for this particular song. I Believe in Miracles. This is written by Brenda, and we're going to just pause here and take a listen to this song. Stay with us here on Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. Don't go away. There's more to come following the song.
Oh, I believe in miracles. Yes, I do. I believe in miracles. I believe in miracles. I believe in miracles. I believe, I believe.
I believe in miracles. That is a song written by my special guest, Brenda. And Brenda Rachel 4, the number 4, angels.com is the website. And we are very grateful that she's with us here on the program. It's interesting, too, when you start thinking, Brenda, about your path that you've taken. I mean, you look back on the first 60 plus years, and you can kind of see a pattern of sorts. But we can. It's like, could I see that pattern going forward, please? I don't give that to you, and I don't think that the angels were forthcoming much with what was coming your way over the coming years.
Well, I know for myself, I'm not quite sure what direction you were going with that. Was that like can you elaborate a little bit more?
Well, it's kind of like when people go to intuitives and they want guidance or they want information about who's going to be my next love, or when am I going to get my new job, or when am I going to move to a new place, or where am I going to move to, and on, and when is the money going to come in, and when is the relationship going to flourish, and on and on and on. And it's been explained to me this way as far as intuitives are concerned. Everything's in flux. So I can tell you today what might be, but tomorrow that could change because everything's in motion, everything's moving, and you may come across an experience, a person, a TV show, a book that could change your perspective on things and turn you in a different direction. So knowing what the future holds, first of all, I guess it would kind of be boring. It was like, well, I already know what's coming, so it's, what's the point of doing anything? That's part of the adventure. That's part of the surprise.
Yeah.
So I'm, and as I mentioned earlier, going through what I refer to as the Job syndrome or scenario, if you will. And we all seem to face that from time to time, but that seems to give you, and I'm curious as to the response of people that you have been able to share with, that gives you a unique perspective when somebody begins telling you their story, shall we say, their Job story, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think what I know for myself, and I always bring it back to me because we're individuals here, we're humans, we're spirits, spiritual beings in a human body being human. And I feel that for me to have any kind of what's the word?
Empathy, maybe?
No, I was going to say not judgment isn't the right word, but about like condition for another person's journey. Mm-hmm. We all have free will.
Right.
So at every single choice in my life, I wasn't consciously aware of my having free will in that moment, but I certainly understand it now from my spiritual progression and my evolvement. And this for me has been all about me evolving spiritually, as most of our life journeys are. We come here to get back to the core of who we came here as, which is pure love. And when I came here, I deviated from that beautiful baby girl that was just so pure love, knew no negativity, wasn't deterred by anything but peace and love and just the bliss of spirit when I came into this world. And then through all kinds of tragedies and trauma and things that went on in my young life, into my young adulthood, etc., my personality became shaped. I still was at my core very bubbly very peaceful. I was always concerned about other people. I've always, since I was a very young girl, my very first words to Mom when I was a youngster that I said were "Don't worry." And it wasn't the normal. It was a "Mama and Dada" or "Mommy and Daddy," and then "Don't worry." And she had written that in my baby book. So I don't know how many youngsters, when they're little teeny tots, those words come out of their mouth. But anyway, I always was trying to make peace in our family because there was a lot of conflict. And so moving forward into my adulthood, I tried to be a very peaceful, loving, gentle spirit, and always bring peace to a situation where I see people who are in some kind of negative conflict with themselves or with another person. I don't like being around it. I don't feel comfortable being in it, and I would rather diffuse something very quickly than even being near that kind of energy. I'm a very, very, I feel energies. I'm very sensitive to energies. So I pick up very easily on just people's looks and emoting. So, but fast forward to now where I am with the angels and all the work that they've helped me to unravel, to come back to this truthfully pure, loving spirit that I came to the planet as, and wanting to see the pureness of that in each individual that I interact with is, to me, a wonderful blessing. And from the book, after I wrote the book and did my website, then I had asked the angels, okay, what do you want me to do now? I'm on a roll. I'm ready to go. And so they said, we want you to do photo quotes. And I went, photo quotes? I don't know how to do photo quotes. Like, I have photos and quotes on my website, a photo on one side and the quotes on the other, but I had no idea how I was going to accomplish this. So in the meantime, they decided, I was sitting here in January 2017 with my brother-in-law and sister, and we were just talking about our goals and visions and dreams for 2017. And they were saying, well, Bran, what's yours? And I said, well, you know, I'm kind of feeling the angels want me to do something bigger than just like write a book and get the music out there, because I've done that. It's really gone nowhere. I've made absolutely zero revenue from it. Not that I intended to have that as my money-making adventure, but I did want to make some money from it if I could. And but saying that, giving it away for nothing also sort of told the universe a different message. So I'm kind of happy with that message anyway. So sitting here in the living room, I said, you know, I want our world to heal. Like, we're so sad. We have so much anger, and it's like my family growing up. Like, Mom and Dad fought all the time, went to bed listening to them fight. And it was like, our world is always fighting. We're just not at peace. And there's no reason why we can't be at peace, because peace is free. It doesn't cost anything. And so we threw around different names and stuff, and finally it came out Humanity with Heart, and I just jumped up and went, that's it, Humanity with Heart, that's my mission. We're going to do things, and it's going to be about peace, and it's going to be about love, and I don't know how it's going to unfold, but that's what I'm going to do now for the angels. So as you can tell, I'm getting kind of excited here.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So this is bouncing off my seat here. So I changed the name of my website, and I could not get the domain name on the host that I was already on for Humanity with Heart, so I had to get that from another entity, and then that's why it's BrendaRachel4Angels.com, which is fine because it encompasses all the things I do. But so I went, what do I do now, angels? What do I do? Well, they know I love music, love music. So I started a YouTube channel called Humanity with Heart, and I started putting out photos and music together. So I was gearing up to get to the photo quotes, which I told myself I didn't have any clue how to do. So I took a step in between and just did the photos and music and had a great time, and I'm having a great time. And so that's on my YouTube channel. But now I have started doing photo quotes, and I have under one of the tabs on my Humanity with Heart website is called Zenspirational 1 and Zenspiration 1 and Zenspiration 2, and those are the photo quotes that I'm working on. I'm on 2 right now, and when I get too many, I'll go to 3. And then I've done a slideshow, which I'm extremely proud of. It's no music, it's just a slideshow of all of the photo quotes that I've done to date. And then I've got a tab for the YouTube Music Zenspirational photo quotes that are on YouTube. And so I'm putting the various topics of the photo quotes now to music on the YouTube site. And then I list them there also on my website. And I also have all my other YouTube links on my website as well for the other music that's on there. So I think I have about 200 minutes or so right now of music on my website of things. And I'm really happy about that.
Well,
And then today, I'm very, very excited because today's been a real blessing. Like you were talking about things happening, people coming into your life, walking into your life out of the, the universe sending. And I'm always saying to the universe, okay, just show me my next step, because sometimes I get into, I'm not sure if you ever get into this, Richard, but you just don't know what you're supposed to do. Like, you keep going along, and then I'll go, okay, no doors seem to be opening. I'm, have lots and lots and lots of connections, but nothing, it's not providing any kind of doors opening for me to make a living at this, or to go on speaking engagements or radio interviews. And then, oh, you pop into my life and through LinkedIn. And then today, one of my articles was published on the Wellness Universe, and they just found me about mid-August, and we've been connected for 3 years on LinkedIn. But the lady Anna Pereira, who's one of the founders of it, she reached out to me through a message and just said, I'm just reconnecting, etc. And so if you want to join us. So I did. And so there you go. Today I had my first article through them published, and they have 3,000 people. And that might be something that you look at, Richard, for your work, because they're called the Wellness Universe, and they're looking for anybody that's wanting to be a change maker, a world changer for towards the goodness of the world. And that's exactly what you do. So they're awesome. They have 3,000 people that are connected with them on their platform. So that's been a very positive day. So I trust the process. And I guess the song that I would say for you, that might be a great one to play now, if you're ready to play this song, would be God, I Am Connected.
Oh, gee, it's amazing that that's exactly the song that I have queued up here on Tell Me Your Story. Stay with us here as we continue talking with Brenda. God, I Am Connected here on Tell Me Your Story.
God, I am connected. My telephone's on the wall. God, I am connected. I'm waiting for your call. God, I am connected. Just tell me what to do. God, I am connected. God, I am connected. God, I am connected. I'm listening to you. My life has been an open book to those who've known me long. The people I'm surrounded by would say that I am strong. I tell them that without you by my side to guide my way, I would not be as happy as I am in life today. God, I am connected. My telephone's on the wall. God, I am connected. I'm waiting for your call. God, I am connected. Just tell me what to do. God, I am connected. along the way. Sometimes I felt I couldn't cope, so I forgot to pray. But then I felt your presence all around me, and I knew that everything would be okay if I had faith in you. God, I am connected. A telephone's on the wall. God, I am connected. I'm waiting for your call. God, I am connected. Just tell me what to do. God, I am connected. God, I am connected. God, I am connected. I'm listening to you. Listening to you. God, I am connected. My telephone's on the wall. God, I am connected. I'm waiting for your call. God, I am connected. Just tell me what to do. God, I am connected. God, I am connected. God, I am connected. My telephone's on the wall. God, I am connected. I'm waiting for your call. God, I am connected. Just tell me what to do. God, I am connected. God, I am connected. God, I am connected. I'm listening to you. Listening to you.
God, I Am Connected. Brenda's the author of that song, the writer thereof, and the music as well through the angels who gave her all of that wonderful music, and we're grateful that she's sharing it with us here on Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan with you. And Brenda, you know, that song, it raises an interesting, an interesting perspective that we share on this program about listening to the still small voice, if you will. And I share the story quite often on this program, maybe more often than people would care to hear, but nonetheless, how it doesn't do a whole lot of good to listen to the voice if you're not going to follow the promptings thereof. You know, it's kind of like, in a way, kind of going to school and just kind of sitting there in class and saying, yeah, I have to go because my parents are making me go. You know, of course, they could make it a little more fun in class, but nonetheless, I think that we try to encourage people to listen to and then follow those promptings.
Exactly. But I also understand that sometimes, I mean, number one, we have free will, but sometimes we get in our own head with all of the reasons why it's not the right time. And I know for me that when I started having these gifts delivered to me from the angels, I didn't question why they were coming to me. I just went with them. But there are times, and one of them, this is really good about you talking about this, is listening to that still small voice, is I paid to have my book published in May for my new book. And I've written about, I don't know, 300 words. And I just am so, it's not that I'm not listening that I need to do it, but I'm finding so many other things that I have more fun with. And I know you and I talked a little bit about this in our initial discussion about writing and how did we find it fun?
Yeah.
And no, my quotes that just come to me, all of the quotes and all of the messages I get are very impromptu and in the moment. They come to me at the oddest times, and I don't ever think about it. I don't sit down and say, I'm going to write a quote now. They just come to me and I go and I write it. But to write our autobiographies or something about ourselves, or even a I've heard other, like Wayne Dyer and other people say that when he was alive, that it took him, he applied himself and set time, but sometimes he found it like challenging to actually make the time to write. So I think there's things that we allow to get in our head to not move forward when we do hear that small voice, that still small voice. And then there's the flip side of the coin where people just tune it out. And again, that's free will. We have free will.
Sure.
We can tune anything out and just go on in our own oblivious way until we get, and this is what I call the angels giving us, see, the angels will give us nudges, kicks in the pants, figuratively speaking, not literally, or they will almost like roll us over with a, like steamroller to let us know that we need to be doing this. The same goes when they're saving our lives. And they will do this whether we ask for help or not. If it's not our time to go, they will absolutely, as they did with me, intervene. And but whether or not I listen to that nudge or that very soft tap on my shoulder and just go, yeah. And this will be especially for me if I'm tired in the morning and I don't want to get up and get going like immediately to go write something. And then I lay there and I go, you're here to be a messenger of hope and to serve. That's your purpose. So get out of bed and stop, telling yourself all the reasons why you need to be staying in bed. I fight depression. I have anxiety and I have chronic fatigue. So those things in themselves are, can be, challenging to be motivating, especially after I lost my dog. That was my dream last October 1st. She was very ill. She was 14 and a half. She was my dream angel dog. And so she was my motivating factor after I stopped working, that to get up in the morning with her at 5 a.m. every day. So I would encourage people who have a purpose and maybe they've lost their passion about it, which is, I think, sometimes when that voice speaks to us, to bring us back to our center of whether it's passion of finding our inner core of back to center, to the love that we came here to be, or the peace we're supposed to feel, or the light we're to bring to others. Because when that voice speaks to us, it's usually for our betterment. And I can't think of one time in my life where, and I'll say God has, or the angels have spoken to me and whispered something in my ear or in my head that's been for a negative outcome. So it's always for our betterment.
I've always found it true that, and again, I can only speak from my own personal experience, but I would like to believe that this is universal, that whether it's the still small voice, whether it's the angels, wherever you are getting that guidance from, as far as the divine is concerned, that it may put you into challenging situations, but it will never put you in harm's way.
Absolutely.
That's not its job, if you will. If there's such a if there is such a job, that isn't it. It's to help you to grow. It's to help you to evolve, to transform your life into something greater than it is today, so as to be there, and as you and I both are very much aware of our own lives, to be there and to be of service to others, to help them. That analogy of each one of us, we're walking up this ladder, and there's someone above us and someone below us, and the one above us is helping us. In turn, we are helping the person below us to continue to climb up that ladder. It's I think that's a very good point to bring up. Before we wrap up the program, and we are coming close to the program, we're actually going to go out with the final selection that we have here, The River of Love. But before we do that, first of all, I would like to thank you so much for giving us so much time and energy, as well as the music that we've been sharing on the program. program and your book and your website, Humanity with Heart. Also, encourage you, should you choose to venture out south of the border, we'd love to have you in studio to continue this conversation down here in Santa Barbara, California.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite. Thank you for having me on your program. And I am just so forever blessed for the angels bringing us together, because I do believe this was divinely orchestrated. And thank you so much, Richard.
You are very welcome. And before we let you go, 3 final questions. Before I offer up those questions, though, I want to remind our listeners that this program is, of course, available as a podcast. And if you're listening to the radio version of this program, you're only getting a small portion. You're going to need to go and listen to the entire interview on the podcast, either at the radio show's page of richarddugan.com or SoundCloud or iTunes. And I'm sure that Brenda will have it up on her website in the not too distant future as well. We'll be sending her a file of that. And folks, if you'd like to help us and support this radio broadcast, we are always grateful for that. There is a link on our mission page as well as the home page that if you'd like to support this effort that we're doing, if you like what we're doing, you believe in what we're doing to try to make this a better place, we would certainly help greatly appreciate any help that you folks can give us. It's a PayPal link, and so do what you can. We'll take energetic support as well. We're not picky in that regard. We'll take all the help we can get here on the program. Brenda, before we let you go, the first of 3 questions, and I will just ask it in this context. Who is Brenda Rachel?
I am a beautiful daughter of the universal God that I come from, sharing my light and bringing inspiration to other people.
What is it that you hope to or want to achieve through the work that you are doing now?
I want to bring global peace and unconditional love to every human being that walks this earth while I'm alive, and the continuum of that after I leave.
And finally, what is your life's purpose?
My life's purpose is to just inspire everyone that comes across my path with some kind of empowering, inspirational, spiritual, or positive message that will touch their heart in some way, just like a light bulb when it goes on. They go, wow, that was an experience. I got a little bit of a jolt talking to her or listening to what I said.
Well, Brenda, again, thank you so much for joining us here on the program. And again, a quick reminder to our listeners, the website that you can go to. Of course, it's Humanity with Heart, but it's Brenda Rachel 4, the number 4, angels.com. And as I've said before, we will be linked to that website as well. And again, Rachel, thank you so much for joining us.
You're very welcome, Richard. Have a wonderful day. Angel blessings.
And thank you. I'm Richard Dugan. This has been Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. We've been giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. Until next time, love to lull.